I'm only made out flesh, blood, and bone.
Our Ashley and Martin turning points could only come from one moment across the rounds. It was the third term, showdown 56, and it sparked a lot. It sparked the tribunal tonight. It led to an intensely volatile scenario out on the field. And for the Crows, it was a close circumstance, but they did lose their cool. They lost their way and they ended up losing the game. So this goes straight into showdown law, which is a burgeoning category right now. Not just what happens inside the fence, but it felt like the whole town was ginned up for us. And that's the moment that it ended up leading to. I wonder if he's glad he wasn't playing. He'd be a bit wealthier for not having
his pockets are fuller.
Because these two are two of our feistier players on Players Night. Tex Walker joins us from the Crows. Tex, great to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
And the Giants captain, Toby Greene. Toby, welcome.
Hey boys, how you going?
Let's just start with what we know, Toby. So Lockie Ash has been unsuccessful in his appeal tonight. This has been a perennial conversation all year, the dangerous tackle. How do you feel about his one-match ban?
Oh, we thought we had something to argue and thought we'd have a crack at it. Probably wasn't too confident, to be honest, going into it. So, yeah, take the week and move on and get Ashy back for finals. So hopefully, hopefully he's all systems go come first week of finals, which he will be.
Tex, you were watching on Saturday night. How volatile was the environment around Adelaide Oval once that happened in the third quarter?
Yeah, probably the most volatile game I've been a part of without playing, Jared, to be honest. It was absolutely packed. Obviously being the Port home showdown, there was 52,000 people there. So it created a great spectacle for everyone watching. And being at the ground was even better. So it was probably the closest to a final that we'll get. So it was, unbelievable, obviously, on the other end of the spectrum, not being able to win the game. But, yeah, it was a great game.
How did you feel in the crowd, mate? You probably haven't missed too many games or showdowns, but to be sitting in the crowd, how did it feel not being out there?
Oh, you know what it's like, Louis, when you're playing big games. You played in a fair few yourself, but you hate missing them, which I didn't like missing, especially showdowns. They're the best game, being an SA, being at the Adelaide Footy Club, being here in SA. So, yeah, mate, it was a great game to watch. We were unbelievable in the first half, but unfortunately we weren't able to stay composed in the second half and get the job done.
Do you expect tonight to be a lengthy suspension for Dan Houston, Tex?
Oh, you'd think so. Obviously the bump is certainly getting pushed out of our game, and yeah, obviously the outcome, Izak being concussed on the weekend, he's on the improve, which is great. The welfare of Isaac's super important, but yeah, I'm sure that it'll take care of itself tonight.
Did you feel like Izak was targeted, Tex, in a way that was at all untoward?
I think there's been comments that it looked like it was a targeted attack on the weekend. I don't think teams necessarily target people as such. You always go in, you want to try and limit opposition good players. But, yeah, I suppose you're showing some vision there. They're certainly putting a little bit more heat into Izak than you usually would, but it's because he's an absolute star of our game. So, like I said earlier, we just want Izak to get back and be healthy because he's a super, super player and he's an even better person.
Did you detect a bit of angst from your coach and a bit of tension, obviously, between Matty Nix and Ken Hinkley afterwards?
Yeah, it seemed that way, didn't it? I actually haven't got to Nixie to see what was spoken about, but yeah, it didn't look too friendly at the end of the game.
Tex, we see this younger generation, I think, coming in and baiting the opposition and the opposition supporters, and also the celebrations that with the Hawthorn boys, a lot has been made. Where do you sit on mainly the Josh Rochelle stuff? That's the stuff that's been spoken about this week in the lead up to the game and certainly post. Where do you sit on that?
Yeah, look, I think there's a time and place for it, Louis. But as a forward, like I've been through it myself, you do get quite emotional and attached to the game. And you've always got to understand how the ball gets to you. It's always something that happens up the field from either the midfielders or defenders. So you can never ever forget who feeds you in that instance. And I've had to learn a little bit along the way myself. We cry out for people being a bit of having some character in our game. And obviously, Josh did that during the week. I'd imagine if Josh had his time again, he might have chosen his words a little bit differently. But we want Josh to continue being him, but he needs to understand who feeds him up the ground.
The mids. Toby, you probably don't have anyone in this boat at the moment with your side. I'm not too sure if you saw it or not, or you've seen what is happening around the league. Do you have an opinion on the change in players and the way that they conduct themselves?
Yeah, it's TikTok, mate. It's taken over the world. So that's.
Is it ammunition for you?
That's where
Do
it
you
comes
love
from.
coming up against an opposition player like that?
If I managed to get myself down to D50, I'm sure I'd say something, but it's not too often. But it is good for the game. It creates content, it creates talking points. To be honest, I don't have too much of an issue with it at all. It's just it can backfire at times, but ultimately it's good for the game. And I'm sure the Port supporters would have been giving it back to him pretty hardly on Saturday night.
So that equation, Toby, is, and you have been this player before, is if you are cheeky, if you do stir the pot, how important is it to deliver against that, then to walk the walk in the game itself?
Oh, well, you always want to give your best performance, especially in big games, and the showdown would have been one of them, and I'm sure there would have been a lot of people talking about it. But yeah, it is. I mean, you don't want to add too much more pressure to what is already a high pressure game. But at the same time, it's sort of, for myself, it's more in game than outside of the game if I was going to do something like that. But everyone's different, and as I said, I don't really mind. It creates something to talk about, and I think it is good for the game in the end.
Now, Tex, you missed the game through an eye injury over the weekend, if people don't know. How's it feeling? And I think in part to that, how worried were you with what had happened?
Yeah, obviously with one of my great mates having to retire because of an eye injury, I was quite agitated and quite worried when it occurred, but cast our mind forward nearly a week and a half. It's great, Louis. I got ticked off by the specialist today to return to play for the last game of the year up in Sydney. So it's going to be a great challenge for us, trying to knock off the top side and finish our year on a high, which is, obviously hasn't gone to plan this year for our footy club, but it would be nice to knock off the top team and have a launch pad in the next year. Can
you explain to us quickly what happened? You said you'd lost your eyesight for a period of time as well?
Yeah, when I got poked, for those that have been poked in the eye, you can usually open the eye and then close, and then it comes back quite quickly. But when I got poked, I couldn't open my eye for a good 20 or 30 minutes, and I was starting to get quite agitated, and obviously your mind is a strong thing. So it started thinking, going to places what obviously Sloaney and what he's had to go through. But over that sort of period of time, it started to come back, which was great.
I'm going to risk agitating you now, Tex. Is Saturday night is the last game of the Crows season, so you'll play. Do you know whether you're playing beyond that?
Yeah, look, we've spoken to the club, my management and myself, and we've told them that we want to play. So hopefully, in the next sort of 5, 6, 7 days, we'll have some good news.
If they didn't want you to play on, would you expect them to tell you so that you know to take a final bow on Saturday? The dialogue's been quite good. They've been really open and honest with me. I'm looking forward to hopefully playing another year, Jared. So
he's just given us an exclusive, I think, Jared. Did you pick up on that?
Yeah. So you would have been watching this forward line evolve. And Phil Thorpe's, not just his numbers, but his presence, and Fogarty as well. What's your place in that, do you reckon, next year?
I think there's still a role for me, Jared. I feel like I'm still playing some really good footy. And I think what I can give them on field, the experience and the leadership certainly will help those guys. But at some stage, footy club needs to move on, and I totally understand that. And those boys at some stage will take over that forward line I can just coast off into the sunset and enjoy watching those two boys, especially run this football club and get them back to where we belong.
But not yet, Tex, not yet.
Hope not.